Hi guys, sorry I am still out. They won't let me come back until Thursday. But today we need to talk about demand. So your assignment for today is to watch this video and take notes on it. No, there aren't guided notes, but that's because you really need to get used to drawing and labeling a demand graph. So demand is exactly what it sounds like. It's how much of a product people are willing to pay for. It is what is the demand for a product means how many people are willing to buy that product at different price points. So as the price of the product increases, less people are willing to buy it. And as the price of a product decreases, more people are willing to buy it. So this right here, and make sure you put this in your notes, is a basic demand graph. It is always going to look like this, and it is always going to be slanted downward. So this axis, the y-axis, always needs to be price, and you need to label that with a P in your notes and on your assignments and on your test. It's not a proper graph if you don't label it. And this bottom, our x-axis, always needs to be Q, or quantity. You don't necessarily need to put the numbers in because the numbers are going to look different depending on what we're talking about. But over here is just always going to be the price, how much it costs. And down here is quantity, how many we need for how many people will purchase it at that given cost. So take, for example, let's say this is just the individual packs of Doritos. Now, some people are die-hard Doritos, or maybe they're just really hungry right now, so they would be willing to pay $5 for a single bag of Doritos, but there aren't that many people who are. Now, if we lower the price, as we lower the price of that little bag of Doritos, more people are willing to pay for it. So that is just what demand is telling us. How many people are willing to buy a certain product, whatever product it is, at the price that it is set at. So why this works, ultimately we talked, one of our main ideas of economics is that people respond to incentives, and a lower price is an incentive. Higher prices disincentivize, they make it so we don't want to buy something. Now, demand can change in two different ways. We can see changes in the quantity demanded, so that's just how many products we need to meet the number of people willing to buy it at a certain price. And that just means that the price of the product changes and the number of people willing to buy it goes up or down accordingly. Now, we also see things that honestly change demand. What that means is they actually move that line. So if we're talking about a change in the quantity demanded, if we change the price of our Doritos, if we keep using that, if we change the price of our little bag of Doritos, more people are willing to buy it because it increases on our quantity line. If we're talking about changing anything, we're usually talking about it on here, this quantity line. So what we're seeing is more people are willing to purchase it at the lower price, so we need more of the product, is ultimately what that means. And to graph changes in quantity demanded, you're just going to have an arrow moving up or down, showing that the price changed and the number of people who want it changed accordingly. So if we look over here though, this is showing a change in demand. What that means is something in the environment around our market changed and the number of people willing to buy it changed. All right, so if the New York Times published a study showing that Doritos are actually the key to long life and general sexiness, that is going to make more people want to buy it. And whether or not we change the price doesn't matter because our whole line is going to change. So many more people would want that. If we suddenly found out that Doritos are the key, like if they're the fountain of youth, if only, that they're the fountain of youth, more people are going to buy it. So that's actually going to move our demand line when we're graphing it. And again, as you're taking these graphs down, make sure that you put P over here and Q over here. I don't necessarily need the numbers unless we're graphing a specific product and you actually have that information, but I do need this labeled P and this labeled Q. All right. Now, increase in quantity demanded. So if the price rises, fewer people are going to want something. So we're just going to move up. Now, I know it looks like it's counterintuitive, but this is actually a decrease because we're talking about moving along this line down here. So it's a decrease in the quantity demanded because the price went up. But if some outside force works on it and moves it so fewer people want something, then that's just going to move the entire line down. But this has to be an outside force acting on it. So the outside forces that can actually change demand are what we call TRIBE. Now I'll explain each of those, but we use the acronym TRIBE. Go ahead, put that in your notes, TRIB, down the side of your page, and just leave space to explain each one. So T stands for tastes and preferences, and that is really just what consumers want. So if we're talking about a fad, well, that's just a change in our tastes and preferences. Next one is related goods and services. If we're talking about related goods and services, I want you to think about goods that you only buy because of other goods. So take, for example, batteries. Batteries are the ultimate example of related goods and services. You don't buy batteries just because you think they're cool and want to have them in your home. No, you buy them because you buy other products, other related products that use batteries. Income. This just means how much money people have to spend. So if people have more money to spend, that tends to lead to an increase in the general demand. Next up is buyers, and that literally just means the number of people around. So if you have more people in an area, you have greater demand because you have more people making purchases. And finally, E is expectations. If we expect a new product to hit the market, making the one that we have or that we're looking at buying obsolete, we might put it off. If we expect the price is going to go up, we might make a purchase now. So expectations can cause shifts in demand. So first up, tastes and preferences. Tastes and preferences are when items become popular or unpopular, or something new is released, or they get bad press, something like that. And it just changes how many consumers want it. All right, so a good example is the iPhone. Every time a new iPhone is released, demand for the old one plummets. So we see this line shift this way. We see it shifting to the left. Now, related goods and services. You have two different types of related goods and services. And like I said, when you think about related goods and services, think about like batteries. So how other goods affect how much of a product we buy. So there are two kinds. There are substitute goods, and that's a product we use instead of another product. So when we're talking about substitute goods, think you're getting lunch today. Are you going to stop at McDonald's or are you going to stop at Burger King? If you're buying one, you're not buying the other. Those are substitute goods. But then you also have complementary goods. So peanut butter and jelly. If the cost of peanut butter goes down, the demand for jelly is going to go up because these are two goods that you use together. So those are complementary products. When you buy more of one, you buy more of the other. But with substitute goods, if you're buying one, you're not buying the other. Take, for example, hot dogs. Now, if the price of a complementary good, like a hot dog bun, if the price of hot dog buns goes down, okay, more people are going to be buying hot dog buns, so more people are going to need hot dogs. And that is going to drive up the demand for hot dogs. And again, when we're talking about up and down, we're talking about up and down on the quantity axis down here. So we went from a 3 to a 4 down here, where it's intersecting at any given price. So we're talking about an increase in demand because it's going up on the quantity line. Next one is income. Now, when people tend to have more money to spend, people tend to spend more money. Not exactly rocket science. Now, there is an exception to this. Things that we buy that are cheap just because they're cheap, so store brand goods, cheap toilet paper, that sort of thing. The sorts of things that we buy when money is tight, because it is cheap, we spend less of. So store brands are an exception to this. They tend to do worse when people have more money. But overall, when people have more income, so like tax season, when people are getting their tax refunds, or anytime a stimulus check came out because of COVID, we would see people have more money. So people are spending more money. It leads to an increase in demand that people have more money to spend. So because tax season happens and people have more money, we see this increasing. Like I said, unless you're Great Value brand ranch, people are going to spring for the Wishbone or the Hidden Valley when they have the money. Cheap toilet paper, not so much. But generally, overall, when people have more money, we see the demand line shifting this way. We see an increase in demand. Expectations. Now, expectations are we expect a change in price, or we expect a change in product, or we expect a change in availability, something like that. So if you wanted to put solar panels on your house, but you found out that there was a fire in the solar panel factory, so we're going to, in the future, see an increase in prices because there's fewer of them available, that is going to drive up the good. If we have a sale on it and we expect the price to go back up, so the shoes that you want are normally $300, but they're on sale right now for $170, that's going to spur us to buy right now. So it's going to, like timing, it's going to increase the timing, influence the timing of when we make our purchases. Buyers. This really just means the number of buyers. So think about college towns when class is in session versus when it's out of session. Or think about vacation destinations when they're out of season. It really just means that the number of people around changes. So if we look just over here at Tempe, where ASU is, when all the students go home for the summer, we see demand for everything in general plummet just because so few people are around. When there are students there, which is, 9-10 months out of the year, the demand is much higher. But when all those people leave, there just aren't the bodies to be making the purchases. So we see demand going down. And like I said, demand is down on this axis right here.